kid from the bush who grew into a legend in his own lunchtime, former SAS soldier Michael J. Malone has seen it all. This is Never Die Wondering, Mick Malone in his own words, hosted by the man himself, Mick Malone, along with Toby Malone, as they examine this long, storied career in the Australian Special Forces. Join us each week for behind-the-scenes insight, exclusive readings, and brutally honest truths from a true original. Welcome to Never Die Wondering. Welcome to episode 42 of Never Die Wondering, Mick Malone in his own words, a podcast that explores the life and legend of Michael John Malone, OAM. My name is Toby Malone, Mick's son and co-host of this podcast series, joined by the man whose name is in the title, Mick Malone. G'day, Dad.
How you going, pal?
Yeah, I'm good. Doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Lungs are a bit bloody off, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's a standard. I think any of our loyal listeners now would be used to the fact that the lungs are a little bit off, but that was sort of
Mm.
something that we dealt with all of our lives, you and I,
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
asthma.
Mm.
And I think I mostly got over it as an adult. I moved to Canada where the pollen isn't nearly as bad, and my asthma's been fine.
Mm.
But yeah, but
Could get a cat, mate.
no, I'm fine. No need for a cat. And we had a cat for a while, didn't we? We had a cat. Georgia owned a
Rum
cat.
tum tugger.
Yeah, around this time when where we are in the book, maybe the cat will be mentioned. I don't know if it is actually, but
Mm.
we had this little cat for a couple of years and joined a little menagerie. We had uh, Ace, the dog, we talked about a lot in the last few episodes, and then this little tiny terrier for a year that when we were house sitting or dog sitting
Tip to Feagle.
yeah. So yeah, but no pets for me. The allergies were too much, so never got to it. But yeah, just I feel as though the pets kind of link into this time. We just finished talking about leaving Duntroon. Just got to the end of Duntroon, and we packed up our stuff and moved up the highway to Sydney for the first time for us. And none of us, the three of us, had lived in Sydney before or in New South Wales before, and so this was a bit of a homecoming for you, coming back
Mm.
to. Was it exciting to get the opportunity to move to Sydney or to bring
Oh,
your
it was.
family to Sydney?
Yeah, it was. It was such a big deal, the job I had, and the CEO I was going to work for, Phil McNamara, and Pat Cullen, and all these fantastic people. And I was the TARA, the RSM.
Hmm.
And with the armed reserve units, RSMs tend to uh, have a bit of gravitas, as it were.
Right.
They quite important in the scheme of things. They're the people who teach the diggers just about everything that diggers need to know, and the officers just wander around doing nothing at all.
So was it a strange feeling when you got up to Sydney to put on a different coloured beret?
Yeah, I must admit it was. The green hat uh, clashed remarkably with my sandy beret, which I'd worn for a long time, since 1967.
Right.
So, yeah, no, but it was good. I stuck it on and I was proud to wear it.
And I've got for those who are watching on YouTube right now, I've got here in next to my desk, sitting right here,
Yeah, there it is.
the Strike Swiftly Commando hat badge that
Yeah,
you wore. This was the
yeah.
original one. This is the one that was on your beret, and I have it now. So it
Did
sits
you nick
behind.
that?
You gave it to me. You
Ah,
gifted it
good
to
on
me.
you. I'm glad you've kept
I'll
it,
bring
mate.
it back next month if you really need it back. But
No, no, I don't want
you go and put it in the garage sale.
it. I don't do that. Hand it
No,
down to your children.
no, I'll hang on to it. But yeah, so it's quite a different feeling to wear a different beret and different hat insignia, and
Yeah.
and all of that. But we didn't know any different when we were kids. We were just off on the next adventure and up into
Mm.
Sydney. And so today we're going to spend some time. I think this entire chapter covers or maybe the next one as well, our time in Sydney. We were there for 2 years and pretty good memories from then. I think I was 9 when we moved up. My sister was 7 and grew up in Artarmon. And yeah, pretty good time. But why don't we get into it? We'll read the chapter and talk about your time moving from Duntroon up to the 1 Commando Regiment in Randwick. So today we'll be reading chapter 39 of Two Ranks on the Road, 35 Years of Australian Special Forces Service by Michael J. Malone OAM, published in 2024 by Imprimatur Books, Perth. This chapter, entitled RSM 1 Commando Regiment, covers pages 291 to 298 in the print edition. The ebook may have slightly different numbering, so follow from the beginning of the chapter. As we read, the body of the text will be read by author Mick Malone. Whenever we come across a footnote, we'll pause in the least disruptive way possible and I will read the footnotes. And now, without further ado, Two Ranks on the Road.
Chapter 39, RSM 1 Commando Regiment, 1987. Always a little further. We packed up all our stuff, filling our trailer, mostly out with kids' toys. We had 2 cars, our old Holden, HQ Holden station wagon, and our VW Beetle. I'd drive one and Joe the other. It was a little sad saying goodbye to everyone, but we were off on another adventure, this time to the Big Smoke. The 2 hours to the outskirts of Sydney went without a hitch until we got right into the heavy traffic and traffic lights. Joe and Georgia followed Toby and I in the VW, but we seemed to disconnect as many traffic lights. There were no mobile phones in those days, so all I could do was watch my rear vision mirror and slow down and keep her in sight.
Footnote. Joe's memory of was that I was running the orange lights on purpose, but I beg to differ. I was in the car with you and you were.
We finally made it to Oxford Street in Darlinghurst, um, where we'd been booked into a nice set of rooms in a self-catering apartment. There was a small supermarket across the road, and I had $100 note in my wallet with which to buy our groceries. Having grabbed a bunch of things, when I went to pay, I'd lost my $100. A frantic search failed to find it, and there were some shady characters in the shop at that time, and one of them must have thought it was his lucky day. Poor stupid me. All I could do was report report it to the shop and trudge back to my family empty-handed. Um, Joe looked at me like I was at me with a look like you're grounded. She had some money and went across and recovered the groceries. What a numpty, I told myself. While we were there, we commenced our search for a house. I hope we can find one in the Randwick area, um, since the headquarters of 1 Commando Regiment was in Randwick, and it'd be nice to walk to work. We looked at a few old houses around Randwick Marrickville area, but they're all dingy and run down, and the asking prices were ridiculous. So we widened our search to include North Sydney and environs. I was desperate to keep us south of the Harbour Bridge, because the traffic to and from work would be intolerable. But as luck would have it, we found a nice old place in Artarmon, close to Chatswood Shopping Centre. So we took out a lease on 37 Muttera Road, Artarmon. It was within our group rental scheme, GRS limit, and looked promising. The Artarmon Primary School was close by. Toby was 9, going on 10, and Georgia was 7, going on 25. Joe got a job with American Express, which was not too far away in North Ryde, and I was going to try my luck on the Harbour Bridge. The trick was to get onto the road leading to the bridge by 0650, giving me a clean run through. Any later, the traffic was horrendous. On day one at headquarters, 1 Commando Regiment, my CO, Phil McNamara, met me in the foyer with much excitement. We'd served together in 3 Squadron, 3 SAS Squadron, him as OC, and me as a lowly sergeant. Here at one Commando Regiment together, we traipsed around the stairs, traipsed up the stairs to the orderly room. We met the Chief Clerk, Peter Edson, and announced himself. In addition, the Adjutant, Peter Turner, came out of his office, as did the Operations Officer, Pat Coleman. Handshakes all round. Pat and I served together in SAS. Lovely bloke. He and I would work closely together. The 2IC, Jim Knox, also ex-SASR, also got in on the handshaking. Jim was on his way out, and I can't recall who replaced him. I'd taken over from Ian Conahan, also ex-SASR. The RSM's office was very well ordered. The files were in their places and the desk was clear. This was the third time I'd replaced Connie, the first being as SSM 1 Squadron, the second in the field wing at Duntroon, and this third one.
Footnote, I'd replace him a fourth time in Headquarters Special Forces, but I'll cover that posting later on in the narrative.
I don't mind admitting that Connie and I work very differently. In each of my postings, I made the point to read everything, to formulate my own ideas with the concurrence of the CO.
Footnote, he'd replaced an old SASR officer, Tony Nolan, who'd served with SASR in Vietnam, 3 Squadron 1966-67, and prior to that, Malaya and Borneo with 4 RAR, awarded the MBE in 1981. Been around a bit, this bloke, good through the ranks officer.
Pat Cullinan briefed us on what each of the companies, one in Sydney, um, 1266 Squadron and the Swan Island Detachment, all Victorian, had on their plates for the coming 12 months. The first thing the CO and I needed to do was visit one commando company over at Middle Head. The boss rang Major Jeff Kidner, ex-2 Squadron SASR, OC1 Commando, and told him we'd be coming over on their parade night in 2 days' time. The last thing they needed was a couple of newbies descending on them out of the blue. In the meantime, the boss spoke to all the subunits to announce our presence and arranged to visit Melbourne the next week. 2 Company first, and then 126 SIG Squadron, and lastly the detachment on Swan Island. Our orderly room organised our flights to Melbourne, including hire car and membership of the Ansett Golden Wing Club.
Footnote, as it turned out, we used the hell out of this club for food and grog and a quiet place away from the noisy concourse.
We flew back and forth every 2 weeks and observed all manner of training. I must say that I was very impressed with their standards. They were very fit and could stomp long distances with heavy packs. In fact, they did everything SASR did, not bad for part-time soldiers. The OC of 2 Company was Dean Pye, who also ex-SAS. He had them on top of their game, which was pretty good for 1 night a week and 1 weekend a month. One company had a recruiting weekend run by Jeff Kidner and his CSM Neil Quaggan, an ex-British SAS member, 23 SAS, and 2 Sydney cops, Rod Gorry and Austin Whitaker. All manner of dudes turned up to try their hand. One bloke, when asked by the review panel why he wanted to be a commando, he replied, "I want to kill Japs." The staff was stunned and pointed out to this character that we haven't been killing Japs since 1945. I'm ready to go and I've got my guns in the boot of the car. The 2 cops leaned over the table and said, "Take us down and show us your guns." They all trooped downstairs to the car park and this bloke promptly opened the boot to reveal his arsenal of an old 303, a 12 gauge, 2 Browning 9mm pistols and a Lithgow 22. They promptly impounded the lot and rang for a paddy wagon. A paddy wagon to take this bloke to the nut house. Never heard any more about this.
Footnote, he was not selected.
What a day. The Swan Island Detachment existed to conduct guerrilla warfare training and other liaison duties. It was populated by all ex-ASR members, even the island caretaker, Big Bill Clifton, was ex-ASR. They did a lot of training up in the Otway Mountains. In fact, in one particular exercise, I was the guerrilla leader, Mako. We established a camp on the bank of a river populated by platypus. All of my guerrillas were young soldiers from Ordnance and Service Corps who had no idea about the bush or weapons, and it was our role of a training team from SASR to train them up for interdiction and ambush roles against government troops. SASR deployed three more five-man patrols whose role was to locate my camp and map it with a view to rolling us up later. We sprung one of the patrols, but the other two successfully achieved their aim, mapping the camp, placing all of our bunkers, and watching our sentry drill and main daily routines, mapping all of our tracks in and out, noting the various booby traps we had set. All in all, they did an outstanding job. At the end of the exercise and debrief, we boarded our trucks and headed for the local pub. There were two among us who didn't drink, so they were the drivers. Our little group of pogues were very happy to be going home, but they had enjoyed their bush sojourns very much. Uh, it's great to see the relief on men's faces when they were finished.
Footnote: I startled a few of them in the pub when I announced that Platypus Bill tasted like cheesels when cooked on a barbecue plate. The horror of this image soon dissipated when I told them I was joking. Cruel wretch.
What fun! It had been a reasonably arduous exercise with plenty of patrolling up and down the local tracks, building bunkers and fire pits, and standing to at all hours of the day and night before we packed up everything and headed back to Melbourne. I'm happy to report no deaths or injuries. I flew back to Sydney after cleaning up, eating and sinking a few cold ones. It was good to be back in the big smoke. My little family were very pleased to see me, as I was them. The most enthusiastic welcome came from Ace the dog, who wiggle-waggled from the front gate down to the house.
Footnote: a lovable dog, but a failed as a watchdog. In 1987, we were burgled in the middle of the day, and all of Joe's jewellery was stolen. Among the other items secreted in her underwear drawer was a bag of 100 silver, round 50-cent pieces, collected by my mother for years. Nowadays, they're worth upwards of $25 each. The thieves used my sport bag in which to carry their loot. We got a call from the local constabulary informing us our bag had been found, and they found a card in a side pocket along with a beautiful little amber brooch, which were returned to us. They never caught the mongrels.
Mongrels. Mongrels.
And that was chapter 39 from Two Ranks on the Road, 35 Years of Australian Special Forces Service by Michael J. Malone, as read by the author. So a quick little chapter there. It's 7 pages in the reading, but half of those are pictures, which is always welcome. But there you go. So what memories of Sydney of getting back there and
Oh, it was
getting
just
into it?
great. It was just so gratifying to have a good job and see my family so often.
Hmm.
Uh, I'd go away for a couple of days, but I'd be back. And then I'd spend a week in the headquarters, coming home every night. So I see the kids a lot more than I used to.
Right.
And they were thriving. Um,
And did you notice that there was a big difference in how things operated between Campbell Barracks and Duntroon and Commandos? Or,
oh, yeah, 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 it was commandos. They were all very respectful of rank in SAS. You, you didn't get much of a fair shake. It doesn't matter what rank you had.
yeah,
So it was ever thus. Paddy Mayne started that stuff in World War Two.
right.
Uh, but at the end of the day, it was a good posting. I was quite respected, and I was able to pass on a lot of good stuff, good training methods. Um, and it was a good posting.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting living in Sydney. Obviously, that's the biggest city we'd lived in. And we were in the suburbs, so it didn't feel like we were in the big smoke so much.
No.
Felt, but it did feel a lot scarier, bigger and scarier than Canberra, which was very isolated. And
Yeah.
that robbery was a bad one. I remember I was the one who came home first and found the house broken into, and that was a scary one. Um,
Yeah. What did
yeah,
you do? Run next door to Didder's place?
I don't know what I did. I think my mate up the road had a mate who lived a couple stores down. He came by to, go and kick the football or something, and I was
Adam?
yeah, that's right, Adam, and he was and he he was a good bloke and he helped me out, but and then I think Georgia came home and then Mum and then yeah, bit of a shock, and then
Yeah.
also just
Yeah.
that moment of realizing this isn't how it's supposed to be, and then realizing, oh, I hope they're not still here, but they were long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, we
Yeah.
had an old bloke next door who wouldn't have heard if a bomb went off. So I don't think um, he was any use for seeing if anyone coming and going, and then the dog was the friendliest dog there was. So I don't think he was gonna.
Wasn't much for a watchdog, oh, as he pops.
No,
My
no, no.
God.
That house was a good house though in Artarmon, and a couple of years ago I looked it up online, and it's been completely. It looks like a spaceship now. It looks like it's going to take off. They've gutted the place and put in a giant pool in the back, and it's quite an
Mm.
incredible place. So we got to it when it
Oh,
was.
it's in the high rent districts.
It is. It sure is. But yeah, whereas the low rent district was Darlinghurst, where we lost the $100. Uh, that was. I think it was a bit of an eye opener for us, staying in that on Oxford Street and in that high rise thing. Um, and there was a swimming pool. We liked that, but it was a bit scary on the main strip as kids who'd grown up in Fremantle and then Duntroon. We weren't really sure what to make of it.
Yeah, Darlinghurst Road was a different kettle of fish, wasn't
Yeah, and I was with you when you lost that $100. I remember it very
it?
clearly.
So you nicked it out of my pocket, did you?
No, we're all going up and down the aisles trying to find it, and yeah, after a
No,
while you think,
it
well,
was a terrible, terrible moment.
yeah, yeah. And then nowadays, if you dropped your $100, you just pull your card out and just tap
Yeah,
your card and go, oh well, I'll make up for it. It's
yeah, yeah.
but
No
yeah,
cards in them days, mate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a simpler time. Yeah, simpler time and a slimmer time. I'm just looking at this photo here. This photo I'm showing here if you're watching on YouTube. Here's a picture of you with your pay stick. You still got your SAS beret on there, but you got your pay stick, which ended up getting broken by a removalist the next year. Remember when we
Oh.
moved back to Canberra?
And his comment was, "That's the most expensive thing I've ever broken."
Yeah,
I should have
yeah,
floored him.
yeah. Well, and he didn't care because his insurance was covering it. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. A couple photos there. You with General Ron Gray and Phil McNamara. There on the next page, all
yeah,
standing up and dressing the troop. This time you've got the green beret on. And then at the end of the chapter, it's page after page of Mick Malone and his mates. There's uh, a young, slim Mick Malone at Puckapunyal there on page 296. That's when in my mind when someone mentions my father, that's who I picture right there. That bloke.
yeah. Handsome
So
boy.
with the black mustache and in camouflage. That's how I always pictured you.
Yeah,
And then we've got the formal dining in night picture of the one commando company there. It's not easy to hold up, but if you are watching on YouTube, you'll get a sense. And then uh, and then there's the rest of the gang, one commando company. This is the headquarters staff there, and with you're in the middle there with Phil McNamara. And then the final photo in the chapter is on page 298, which is a photo that this one, I feel like this was framed in our house. We had this one around. I remember seeing this one. This is you and Phil McNamara again. Another kind of very familiar photo for me.
Mustache time.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever think of going back to the mustache? Giving your chin a
Different colour
rest?
now.
Yeah.
Without a mustache, I've got a lip like a thirsty horse.
No, I know, but you've had the chin whiskers for the last 15 years. I can't remember when you had a mustache. For a while there, you were growing it out. I think maybe there's a photo in the later. Oh no, it's not in this book. It was something that we had a picture of in George's memorial, where you had your mustache. You started growing it out, so I almost connected up with your sideburns. You remember you?
Yeah.
Ah, dear.
We all
So
have periods. We all have periods of foolishness in our lives.
yeah, that's it. So so good times in Sydney and lots. And did you find you learned a lot as RSM?
Oh, mate, it was a wrench, basically. Well, it was just fantastic to get involved with one Commando Regiment who, like I said, could easily go to war, and eventually they did in Afghanistan,
Hmm.
and not bad for chocos who one night a week and one weekend a month. You know, how the
Right.
hell do you get standard up? They got the standard up for sure.
Hmm.
And that's some great instructors, mostly from the West. And that's some good fodder,
Yeah.
basically. The
I mean,
people
not
who the people who turned up to want to join one commando were high caliber blokes. You know, weren't except for the one with a bootload of weapons. You know,
this bloke was he? So was he? He wasn't a full quid. This guy.
nah. And they took him off to Broughton Hall, I think.
Yeah. And so yeah. Was he a young guy or was he?
Yeah, young bloke, about 25. Bit of a bushy,
Yeah.
but want to kill Japs. Oh my God.
Jeez. Yeah.
The two
Yeah.
cops come with us to the boss.
Yeah. Yeah. So lots of good things there. But all right. Well, that is all the time we have this week for Never Die Wondering. So join us next week for the next installment in our exploration of Mick Malone's career as we get to the 40th chapter of the book itself, titled Everest. If you have a copy of Two Ranks, join along with and read along with us. I've been Toby Malone, and thank you to Mick Malone for bracingly joining me on this journey.
My pleasure, mate.
This has been Never Die Wondering, Mick Malone in his own words. For links to purchase your own copies of Mick's books, visit the show notes or mickmalone.com.au. This podcast is produced by Toby Malone, Joe Malone, and Mick Malone, and engineered by Toby Malone. Theme music is The Happy Wanderer, the official SAS march, as reimagined by Cormac Malone and Meg Logue Malone. Yes, this is a family affair. This is a GM production in association with Imprimatur Books.